Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3.
Yep, Jujutsu Kaisen, Season 3, Episode 11. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more Anime Night in the dojo. And TLDR of where we've been this time is Age's internet service provider decided that it was okay to have an upload speed from 1995 for a couple weeks. So there was no way we could record because Age would have been going in about like 1 frame a second. So that's not really conducive to anything. He could have gone videoless, but even then, you guys would have had full robot voice, and that's not fun for anybody.
Yeah, I could have probably watched the episode because I still had a reasonable download, but my upload was literally peaking at like 300 kilobytes a second.
Yeah.
So I would barely been audible.
Yeah. Even the times where we were doing a couple things, I had to have Age repeat himself like 30 or 40 times a couple times. Because like, listen, man, I just hear, no. It's like, I got nothing. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Something about Rice Krispies. I don't know. But as for last time, we had the whole poop needle thing, 1,000 Years of Death. That's always fun, right? You know, that guy was great. That was a fun discussion. And once again, I firmly stand behind what I said last time. Now that I'm slowly remembering what happened 3 weeks ago. The last episode was the best episode of the season. Once again,
yep,
by a wide margin. This is not up for debate. Maki aura farming for 3.5 minutes does not make a good episode, because that means 90% of the rest of it was mediocre at best. Last time had everything. It was fantastic. I love Reggie's power. It is fantastic. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how I felt about I forget her name, but it was one of the characters in Tomo-chan, her mom. Just with the limited screen time she had, I was like, she deserves her own side series. I think Reggie needs his own side series. Literally collecting receipts. So, but on the serious side of things, Fushiguro is using the gym that they're in to use his domain. So this should be very cool. Looking forward to that. This is also Tokyo Number 1 Colony Part 5. Gotten very original with episode titles the last 5 times. And we do know from meta knowledge of next episode, it's not Part 6. It's, it's something else entirely based on what the title is. So we'll get to that next time. But looking forward to Fushiguro's domain. Should be very cool. How Reggie deals with it, what happens here. This is probably going to be the end of anything going on in the Tokyo Number 1 Colony, because all the major players are going to be ghost or gone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here in this last bit, besides me getting a spam text message at 8 p.m. probably. You know what? For you guys, because this is what a lot of people probably have to deal with, spam messages. Let's see what it actually says. This is for Gracie, again, somebody who had my phone number well over 30 years ago. This is Dr. Karen Scher, running for the County Superintendent of Schools. I'm a 30-year teacher, 11-year school board trustee, and statewide administrator. Holy crap, this is like 5 paragraphs about why you need to do something about a city school system 55 miles from where I live. It's all there. This is crazy what they try to do. I bet you this person right here, you guys might be able to see that. I bet you that person right there isn't even a real person. I bet you there isn't a person named Dr. Karen Scher. We just got done talking about people using other people's name, image, and likeness. I'm going to have to look into this Karen Scher person after this. And if she is a real person, I'm going to contact her and say, hey, people are using your name, image, and likeness to try to scam people and scam text messages to get their information. So maybe you should look into that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there ain't no way that somebody's doing a text message campaign like that, because at the bottom of it, it's not your it's a random cell phone number. It's not official, and it's not even from the correct area code. I know the area code of the city they're talking about. That's not that area code. They're trying so hard, and I would recommend people just ignore this stuff. Just block and report it, and just ignore it, because it's always going to be a scam. It's not your loved one. It's not this real person. It's all just somebody trying to get your information. If you're feeling froggy, I did see something recently where somebody demanded a Venmo payment or one of the Cash App payments of $160 or whatever. So the guy sent the $1.65 to the scammer, and the scammer said, "Oh, you sent the wrong amount." And he's like, "Oh, my bad." So the guy then proceeded to request $165, and because the scammer thought that they had them, they didn't look at the fact that, you know, it was a request for money, not receiving an acceptance of payment. So the guy took $165 from the scammer, blocked it, and reported them, and came away with some money from a scammer. So that's how you can fight back. You can always do a stupid check if you're willing to give up about $1. You don't have to give up a lot of money. If you're willing to roll a dice on $1, you might be able to take some money from these assholes who do this, which is a great way to fight back. So yeah, that was real time. So maybe Fushigaro's domain expansion is spam call protection. We need something like that. So yes, either way, there's something else for you guys, a little bit extra insight into just random madness that I have to deal with on a daily basis. And by deal with, I mean block and report the number and move on with my day. But you know, there are things like proxies and whatnot. We all know that, but you know, it's still a valid phone number that's definitely been reported for spam, and you can see it right there in the Google thing. That's like, this is suspected spam. It's like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
So they can't even get their shit together to know that this great, because I remember, just real quick here, there are 2 people who have had my cell phone number before me, and I've had this cell phone number since I was a kid 25 years ago. You know what I mean? So I've had this number since like 2002 or something, right? And these 2 people had the number before me, like in the late 80s and early 90s. And it's like their records are still showing, like, I forget what the other guy's name is. I get Gracie, and I think it's Harold is the other name. And it's just like, man, your records are out of date. Where are you getting this information? So, yeah. Anyway, as for Jujutsu Kaisen, we're going to push some buttons and get going here. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the time reaction. Check that out on Patreon, completely free. The link in the description. Check out the time reaction. And people on YouTube, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the discussion. So here goes something. Well, alright, then there you guys have it. We learned more about Fushigaro's shadow storage box area thing.
Yeah, we hadn't had that restriction before, like mentioned. Like, we only ever seen him carry small objects, so it never really got brought up. But yeah, apparently he has infinite space, but he still has to actually be able to support the weight.
Right. So like the last time this was brought up was like when they like cleaned out the like special grade curse tool shed or whatever, and Maki was like, oh, or I don't know if she mentions it, but he kind of figures like, oh, I can just put it in my shadow realm place. So him bearing the weight of a couple dozen weapons, completely different from him bearing the weight of 3 passenger vehicles. You know what I mean? So that's a very, very interesting drawback to what was essentially originally showcased as like the classic like item box, you know, bag of holding, you know what I mean, that kind of power where you open up a pocket dimension, you know, it's in, you know, Campfire Cooking, it's in Reincarnated the Sword, plenty of other places. Those are just some recent examples. But you open the pocket dimension, you stick it in there, you know, in the case of like say Makota's thing in Campfire Cooking, he could, you know, bake a pizza and stick it in there, and pull it out a week later, and it would still be piping hot and fresh because it was in stasis, but he wasn't actually carrying the weight. The amount of crap that he shoved into his item box personally, like herds of gigantic boar monsters or whatever, like the dragon too, like the earth dragon, every other thing he was carrying around, he was probably carrying around the weight of hundreds of passenger vehicles based on what Fel was hunting, you know what I mean? And he didn't have to bear that weight because it's a pocket dimension that you just open and it's there and you just pull out whatever you want and that's it. You know what I mean? You're not actually bearing the weight. That's usually how these pocket dimension things work. So yeah, that is a huge downside to his storage place.
The Earth Dragon by itself was probably close to like 15 tons based on its size.
Right. That thing was huge. And that was on top of everything else that he was carrying in there. So, you know, different world, different rules. You know, maybe Makoto's stat line, like if he had like Fel's stat line, maybe he could potentially bear the weight of stuff like that with like a over 10,000 strength. You know what I mean? Because you do see in that series, like when he picks up the magic stove, that stove has got to weigh at least 500 or 600 pounds. It's like full cast iron, you know, large. Yeah, you know what I mean. And he was just picking it up like it was nothing.
Makoto is quite strong, but he is also still more of a mage build than that.
But still, regardless, the whole point is, generally speaking, this is the first time that I've seen like something that's like a pocket dimension, you know, bag of holding, whatever you want to call it, you know, item box, whatever, that you bear the weight of what you're carrying, like an actual bag.
Yeah. The original bag of holding from D&D, you don't carry the weight of the items in it, but the bag of holding itself is inordinately heavy. It's almost only be the size of like a hip pouch satchel, but it weighs like 25 pounds.
Right. Which, you know,
comparatively is inordinately heavy. Like a backpack in D&D is supposed to only be like 5 pounds, but then you have a hip pouch that's only like a quarter of the size, weighing 5 times as much.
Yeah. So that's a pretty
But, you know, it's still a bag of holding and could carry freaking thousands of pounds worth of things inside it.
Yeah. So that was a pretty interesting and unique drawback to Fushiguro's power here. But the narrator did a fantastic job explaining everything that was going on that Reggie wasn't pointing out. I'm glad it wasn't just the narrator, you know what I mean? That the characters were still contributing to the explanation of the fight as to what's going on. But at certain points, it does make sense that they are not going to narrate what they're thinking, even out loud, or even like in their head to a certain extent, because it kind of takes away from like the immersion and stuff like that. So having the narrator be able to like step back and be the one that does it, if to explain what's going on.
Basically what they were doing with the narrator is the narrator was narrating the stuff that wasn't going through their head.
Yeah.
The stuff that they weren't thinking about or that they weren't privy to, like, and specifically, like the whole thing with Fushiguro not knowing about the wicker basket technique, but then Reggie not understanding how Fushiguro's incomplete domain works. So neither of them thought about it. It was the narrator who explained it because neither of them knew what was going on.
Right. So it's good that they have stuff like that to like clarify the situations and stuff like that. Otherwise, you just kind of have like and you see it in other shows where both characters are just confused, and then like it's never explained as to what happened outside of like maybe like after the battle or whatever. Like one of the more you know, intellectual characters will just be like, "This is probably what happened," and it's just kind of like an off thing, and it kind of loses its impact because the moment isn't happening anymore. So then you kind of have to like go back and be like, okay, so this is what was happening, and you kind of have to like look at it and go, oh, okay, I get it. Most people aren't going to do that, so that's why it loses impact if it's not explained in the moment. And it was a pretty good call for them to do what they did here for this. And once again, interesting bit that the narrator probably had the most speaking lines in this episode, which you usually don't see that. So that's kind of an interesting, just like random bit of trivia for this is. The narrator very well might have had the most speaking lines for this episode, so that's definitely something. But everything in this sequence was pretty good across the board. The fact that his trump card was literally just, you know, a freaking apartment, basically small home, you know, like a condo, basically. You know what I mean?
Just drop a small house on him.
just go full Wizard of Oz and just like drop it on him. It's definitely something. But all this was definitely interesting. It was a solid fight across the board. We got to talk about that during the episode where, if Fushigoro's body is bearing the weight of what's in his shadow, if he lashes onto somebody, that's no different than, like the classic ball and chain that they put on prisoners back in the day. If that prisoner jumps onto the back of somebody that doesn't have a ball and chain, they're bearing the weight of the ball and chain as well, just because it's not part of that person's body. It's still attached to them. It's still weight that's attached to their being. So this chokehold right here has the force of 2 cars plus, whatever else Fushiguro has going on in his shadow. So, yeah, that was pretty serious business. Either way, the whole getting receipts wet thing, that was, it made sense for what it was. Just everything that was explained in this episode, the strategy, all those kinds of things. I'm bummed out that this wasn't the kind of gymnasium that has the retractable floor to the pool, because I would have been able to make so many good reference jokes, but now I can't because they specifically said it was underneath it. They said it was in the heated pool in the basement, so they took it all away from me. And as you can see here, this is like the rubble of the gymnasium floor and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not a retractable thing.
Yeah, it's just Fushiguro dismissed his domain and hid in his own shadow. So the house just crushed the floor. It didn't actually hit him.
Right. So this was definitely get away from the blood, because we talked about that before. There's a lot of blood there at the end, but it's like, what this means. Hand-to-hand combat with a little sleight of hand. You guys might have missed Demon Dog just kind of, fry on 100 cups of coffeeing across the screen and RKOing Reggie in like literally 2 frames, but it did happen. Demon Dog is definitely not a low-level Shihigami, since it's his oldest Shihigami. It's the one that he's been able to, probably put the most into, you know what I mean? So since it's been around the longest, it's the one that's developed the most. It's his familiar that he's had the longest, so it's going to be the strongest, just because you have, it's kind of like Ash's Pikachu. You know what I mean? Just because it's a low-B Pokemon or a low-B creature, eventually, you become an Emperor Slime. That kind of thing. So don't underestimate something just because it's like a low-tier creature or whatever, because who the hell knows how long it's been around and what it's capable of doing now. So it's definitely something to be on the lookout for. But the one thing that did resonate with me was this episode with Reggie mentioning like all sorcerers are liars. It's like, well, you sure as hell aren't going to tell the truth to your enemy. You know what I mean? It's all about deception and getting the upper hand on your opponent and winning the fight however you can. So truth comes later, after you've killed them, and then they hope that fate plays games with you. It's like, that's what fate always does. So you're just saying just keep doing what you're doing? That's a stupid request. But either way, the other major thing that came out of this episode was the fact that this man right here is going to be played by Jim Carrey in the live action. Because apparently, he has the same power as Big Head, aka the Mask. That's insane. So, for anybody who doesn't know the Mask's lore, the TLDR is it can get away with anything as long as it could be considered funny.
As long as it would consider it to be funny.
Yes, as long as it considers it to be funny. That's it.
Which the Mask has a very sick sense of humor and often considers things like genocide to be the funniest solution.
Yeah. So, the Mask understands how its power works. Obviously. As was pointed out by the narrator here, he does not. If he ever figures it out, as was stated, he's stronger than Gojo, because he would have what equates to the Toon Force. And the Toon Force is greater than anything in recorded anime history. It's that simple. That's why SpongeBob can just win most death battles. You know what I mean? That's why Popeye is a huge deal and can beat Saitama, that kind of thing. The Toon Force is stupid and broken. Anybody with access to the Toon Force in a universe like this is pretty much undefeatable, especially if they know what their power is. He doesn't really understand what's going on. But, you know, that doesn't stop how powerful he is. So, this is...
he's an idiot and can't figure it out, but that doesn't mean it's not going to still work.
Yeah. So, I still think he's, like, subconsciously using reverse curse technique, even though the little explodey guy mentions, like, oh, there's no signs of it, but considering how his power works, it probably won't show signs of it. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that it's not what's happening. So...
Well, if his power works as the narrator put it, then he wouldn't need reverse curse technique. Because just, once again, like Toon Force, he could evaporate Wile E. Coyote and he'll be the same the next second. He'll be just back as if nothing happened the next second.
Right. So, yeah, I guess that would mean that it's not that. So, but still, it'll be interesting to see what part this guy plays in the rest of it, especially since he does have some weirder interactions in the OP. So it'll be interesting to see if he, like, decides to go with Yuji and Fushiguro and stuff like that into the next area, whatever they're going to do. But as we saw at the end here, apparently we have a who dis going on. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see who this is. Maybe it's Fushiguro's sister's persona and she awakened and she can now, like, have a proxy.
We have seen a glimpse of this character before, and they're one of the reincarnated sorcerers, but we have no clue who they are, what their purpose is, what their powers are, anything like that. All we know is that they get briefly shown when they were, like, glancing through a bunch of the reincarnated sorcerers.
Yeah. So, I guess Tokyo Colony number 1 is not done just yet, even though some of the major players have been dealt with. But we got left on the fact that, you know, you got the big 4 in the Sendai Colony. And then, well, one of them got cut in half by Yuta, unceremoniously. So there's a lot of unceremonious RKOing going on today with the stuff we're watching.
Yeah, which it is worth noting that this guy, according to the narrator, has the, like, highest raw firepower of any of the players in the game currently, including Yuta.
Right. So I guess it depends on what kind of firepower that is, because we have no idea what he does. He likes to smoke, and he has a pompadour and a necklace, and no shirt.
Presumably, he shoots energy out of his pompadour.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at it.
Because they specifically frame it to have, like, the hole like it's a cannon.
Yeah, because they had the shot when they were, like, zooming in on him. It's like they did show, like, at a different angle. I could have sworn they did. Yeah, there you go. There's the angle. So yeah, maybe he is the high-powered cannon that everybody's looking for. And this author is usually fairly literal when they use terms like firepower. You know what I mean? So, you know, that looks like a rifle barrel. Just saying. You know, so I'll be interested to see what his deal is. But, you know, we have her. She manipulates the sky. We had the monk guy. Can't show the cockroach because it's a cockroach. It'll be interesting to see how they censor that, because Japan always censors cockroaches because, you know, they're against, you know, grotesque things. That's why they censor vomit and stuff like that as well.
They don't always censor cockroaches. It depends. Like, for example, Kyohaku isn't censored in Overlord, which is who I was referencing when I mentioned that, like, they're talking about, like, how he's waiting for something that no one can figure out. And I was jokingly saying, well, he's just waiting for Ides to give the order.
Right, yeah. So, but either way, just even with, like, an introduction like that was given by these big 4 pillars, and they were in a stalemate in Sendai. Just, you know, Yuta just walking in there and just bodying this guy like he's nothing. Just, once again, even Gojo admitted, it's like, yeah, he's stronger than me. It's just that Gojo cheats and he has infinite cursed energy, so he can just he could keep himself away from Yuta as long as he has the 6 eyes. You know what I mean? The second Gojo doesn't have infinite cursed energy, he's toast.
Yeah, Gojo does a lot of things that are normally impossible because of the fact that he has unlimited cursed energy. If it were not for that, then Yuta would have surpassed him a while ago.
Yep.
But it is also worth noting that he specifically goes out here and he just freaking RKOs the guy who had the most points out of all 4 of them.
Yeah, the guy with the most points, and arguably the guy with the most interesting introduction, because his domain was as large as his 2 strongest orbiting Shikigami, which, based on what they showed from that wide-angle shot, was at least several city blocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If this guy could, like, cover all of, like, multiple Times Squares with his freaking domain, that's a pretty big deal. You know what I mean? So
it is also worth noting, though, that he was a reincarnated sorcerer. They specifically mentioned, which once again, reincarnated sorcerers have weaker domains.
yeah, so just because it's large doesn't mean that it's necessarily strong. You know what I mean? So, but still, it was definitely an interesting thing to think about. Like I mentioned in the live reactions, like, well, that's something, because, you know, he had that wide angle shot of like this with his Shikigami here, which is, I assume one of them is that big, what is that, like a freaking, I don't even know what that could possibly be. Like a mole rat, something like that. But you know, several city blocks regardless. Huge domain, and we'll never know what the deal was with him, potentially. So but hey, at least we've got sky manipulation chick, cockroach guy, and Pompadour Canyon Man. So that's something.
From the brief bit that the preview shows, it seemed like Yuta's gonna fight Pompadour. And then, yeah, we have no clue what's going on with Kyohaku II or friggin' Storm.
Yeah, pretty much. But either way, another solid episode for what it was. It was cool to have all of Fushigaro's stuff explained, stuff like that. A little bit more information on his character, the Shadow, you know, debuff obviously is a big deal for that. So going forward, that'll be something to keep an eye on. But other than that, you know, solid sequence. Bummer that Reggie's gone, but that's not surprising. Well, we got the classic what are you gonna do now, I'm going home situation too thrown in there. So that was pretty hilarious. Gotta appreciate that one, always.
Yeah, that was the other random thing that came out of this was from what we saw, it seemed like the either one of Reggie's lackeys was dead. But no, apparently he survived and was still fighting the guy this whole time. And has now decided he's going home.
Right. So it will be interesting to see if that is brought back up at any point. Yeah. So the stuff that's up in the air. What the hell is Yuji doing? Fushiguro is at the mercy of one of the archangels. Don't know what her deal is. And
Scorpion Chick is still alive.
And is still alive. And, well, stuff's going on in Sendai, also known as Hokkaido. So, wait, no. Is Sendai in Hokkaido? Or is that the area right below Hokkaido? I don't remember. It's been a minute since I've looked at that map. The only reason I remember this is because it was a huge part in Persona 5S, and they go to Sendai. Can't remember if Sendai is one of the regions in Hokkaido or it's the region at the top of mainland Japan. I know it's up there, but I forget if it's in Hokkaido, if Sendai is in Hokkaido.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was its own region, like at the north part of Japan, it's like mainland.
Yeah, it's like the northeastern section of Japan.
Right. So yeah, that's what I thought. So not in Hokkaido just yet. But to be fair, Hokkaido was excluded from all this in case I remember correctly. I think it was just mainland Japan that was under it because of whatever's going on
Yeah,
with Hokkaido. So yeah, they couldn't ever be in Hokkaido because of the rules.
Yeah, the whole thing. Well, so based off of Tengen's interpolation of what's happening, Hokkaido isn't relevant because Hokkaido is already a place of high spiritual energy, so it's not needed to have a game take place at it for whatever ritual Tengen believes Kenjaku's trying to perform.
Right, that's what it was.
But once again, we've only got Tengen's side of things, and it keeps throwing things implying that Tengen's probably wrong about Kenjaku's actual goals.
Right. Which hopefully
either
before
way-
the end of the season, we'll get more of him and the quote-unquote higher-ups something.
But either way, yeah, there is no colony on Hokkaido. They're all but one of them is mainland Japan, and one of them is on one of the outlying small islands.
Yep. So, anyway, that's all I got for this one. Another solid episode. Yeah. You got anything else, Age?
I don't think so.
Alrighty then. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, people YouTube, beyond whoever you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the dojo. This is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3, Episode 11. We'll be wrapping it up next week. So, yeah, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.